What's up, YouTube? We're going to have a discussion today. Happy Saturday to everybody. The sun is not up yet. Oh, man. It's so early. Happy Saturday to everybody. Hope you're all enjoying your weekend. And if you work on the weekends, I hope that goes well for you. Got a new sticker, the Throws and Brews logo that I put up. It's kind of showing up dark in the... Oh, well. It's right there. Thanks to Chris Compton, Combro Throws, for hooking it up with the stickers, or with the vinyl prints. But anyway, guys, we're going to do a discussion today. Today, we are going to talk about BiMetals. What's the deal with BiMetals? Why, BiMetals have become very popular in competition, very popular just, overall with yo-yo players, and for good reason. But I think there's some pros, some cons, some drawbacks, some positives, and we're gonna talk through those today. But I need to hear your opinions on BiMetals, whether you love them or you hate them, or you think they're fine, or you think it's a fad or whatever. Personally, I like them. I think that they have I think that they have their place, particularly in competition. You guys like my goblet? Particularly in competition, I feel like they can provide a more extreme weight distribution for higher performance. I feel like the performance bar with a BiMetal yo-yo is clearly much higher than it is with just a monometal yo-yo. But there are drawbacks, and with anything, there's good ways to do it, and there's bad ways to do it. So I wanted to talk about it, wanted to go through my opinions on them. I've got some notes here, so let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about what is a BiMetal. So to me, and what I'm talking about specifically, a BiMetal yo-yo is a yo-yo that is constructed of two different types of metal. Aluminum is a metal, stainless steel is a metal. So this is G2 Elite. It's constructed of 6061 aluminum and a stainless steel ring, which is, I don't know how this is in there, press fitted or something? Blasted in? I'm not sure. Press fitted into the cup here, and very beautifully done. This is an example of a fantastic BiMetal that was maximized the use of the BiMetal design. To me, like I said, a BiMetal, what is a BiMetal? A BiMetal is a yo-yo that is constructed out of two kinds of metal. Now, of course, you can get crazy with this. You can have, Danny's got one that's titanium with stainless steel rings, and I've seen tri-metals that are aluminum, stainless steel, and titanium rings, and, you could even get into your hybrid plastics. This isn't a BiMetal, but it's got, metal and plastic, but this isn't really what I'm talking about. Talking about BiMetals. So a BiMetal is a yo-yo that is constructed out of two metals. That's all we're going with today. Let's go over the pros and cons of that first. So the pros first. BiMetals can be more stable because you can have more extreme weight distribution. So a lot of times, and a lot of companies try to put that weight distribution in such a way onto the yo-yo that it will make it more stable and give it a longer spin time. Which, of course, is great for competition because when you're up there performing your tricks on stage, you want all the help you can get because you want to win. So it kind of can give you an edge in that regard as far as performance and competition is concerned, because if your yo-yo is more stable and spins longer than somebody else's, you've got an edge over that, and any little bit helps. So you can also get some extreme weight distribution into the rims, such as this beautiful Night and Gale here. A lot of weight in these rims because it goes in there. So super stable yo-yo, and is very forgiving. This is probably one of the most forgiving yo-yos I have. In fact, to play this yo-yo and then switch to a less forgiving yo-yo is sort of jarring a little bit. Again, done really well on the Night and Gale. It can also be lighter, and without making it a super heavy yo-yo. To get spin times and stability like that on just an aluminum yo-yo, sometimes you have to push it up to 70 plus grams, which will make the yo-yo play like a rock. With a BiMetal yo-yo, you can kind of make more extreme weight distribution without having to push just so much weight into the yo-yo that it plays slow and like it's made of rocks. The Elite is a great example of this. This is like 62 or 63 grams, but it plays super stable and super forgiving because of its sort of simplistic design and the rim clipped into the ring here. It's also like 63 grams, so you can go pretty fast with it, and it will be stable, but also very controlled because it's just designed amazingly. And it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, but they're not all like that. So they're not all lighter. Some of them can be heavier. This is the Lucky Lee Lithium. This is my buddy Simply Mike's. This is kind of a really heavy bimetal. I'm not sure what it weighs, but it plays really heavy. And, you know, they're not all always lighter. Everybody doesn't always hit a home run with them, but this is super stable. Does spin a long time. So yeah, it can be faster. You can play faster with them because they're more stable but they're lighter as well, and you have a greater opportunity for higher performance. So I've actually discussed with professional players. I've discussed with Kai Zizin before. If you ever get the chance to pick Kai's brain on really anything yo-yo related, or really anything related to anything, you should do it because Kai's an interesting guy. He's a really smart dude too. But he said that, you know, if he's just playing yo-yo out or whatever, you know, it's whatever, everything, anything, you know, as long as it's, you know, spins decently, works just fine. But if he's competing, he really wants a bimetal because it's lighter, it spins longer, and he just feels that gives him more confidence because he's got that extra spin time to kind of work his way into those really complex mounts that he likes to do, and it doesn't hinder his performance anyway. He wants to have the yo-yo spin and be as stable for as long as humanly possible so that he can get into and out of all those complex mounts that he really likes to get into, and that's why it works for him. And it works that way for a lot of guys who compete as well because they get a lot more spin time out of their yo-yos, and the lightness of the yo-yo kind of gives them the confidence they need to sort of continue to perform their tricks and to perform them well. Like I said, and to perform them well. But it needs to be a good bimetal. The cons of bimetals are, regardless of how you get it, for the most part, bimetals are more expensive. Pretty much 100% of the time, bimetals are more expensive than their monometal counterpart type yo-yos that you would have the opportunity to get. So, the Elite, which is amazing. It's a fantastic yo-yo. It's a great bimetal. Actually, kind of on the cheap end for US-made bimetals at $150. You would have to spend $200+. You'd have to get like something yo-yo recreation to be anywhere in the ballpark of performance on this that you get on this, and these are like $150 new. But you know, the Banshee, which is still one of my all-time, maybe probably still my favorite yo-yo. Banshee is so good. Is like $100 for solid colors, like 115. So you know, you are paying a lot more for the bimetal. Now, does the Elite have some performance edges on the Banshee? Maybe a little bit. This is probably a hard comparison to make because the Banshee is just so good. But the Elite's really good too. So, you know, it's probably a good comparison to make, actually. But, you know, you get a little bit... It's lighter. You could just tell by holding it. It's lighter than the Banshee. It spins probably a little bit longer. I mean, I can't say that this has practically infinite spin. As far as I'm concerned, as many tricks as I want to do, it'll still come back for me. And it's definitely lighter and quicker than the Banshee is. Not that the Banshee's any slouch, but the Elite is lighter and quicker. But you are paying about $50 more for the Elite versus the Banshee. So they are more expensive. Also, I've had the unfortunate experience that some bimetals are a little more fragile than, depending on how the rim is constructed, of course, and how the rim is applied. But some bimetals can be more fragile than their monometal counterparts. Now, there's a lot of monometals that can certainly take a beating, But some bimetals just really can't. Now, it was last year. I haven't seen it as much this year, but one way to construct a bimetal was just really to clip the ring to the edge here. And this sort of just clips it to the outside. This is the Superstar. Sort of just clips it to the outside of the rim here, as opposed to just clamping it on all the way around. But I had a Nightmare that does clamp it all the way around, and not only did I experience this, but I know other people have as well. And a lot of bimetals that just clamp the ring onto the end, a lot of people have this issue, is that the ring can become dislodged or loose and either spin, like you'd be able to spin the ring. Now this one's perfect. This is good, but you could spin the ring, or you'd have to click the ring back into place if you banged it off the ground or whatever. The ring can become dislodged. So they can be more fragile than their monometal counterparts, just because it's two pieces of metal that are clamped together. In addition to the fragility, I've played a lot of bimetals that cost a lot of money that still have a little bit of vibe that a monometal that's, even 10, 15, 20 bucks cheaper could be dead, that I have might be dead smooth. So because there are two pieces of metal, being clicked together, there's the potential to introduce vibe because, as different metals expand and contract differently or affected differently by climates and heat or what have you, there's the potential to introduce vibe because of those two different metals. But companies are getting better and better at that all the time. But something to note, it is kind of a con. They can feel kind of stiff and boring. A lot of times, too, companies are just kind of clamping rings on just to kind of put extreme spin times and, just add all the power to the rings. But that can kind of make, if all you've got is rim weight, that can kind of make, to me anyway, a yo-yo kind of feel stiff and boring. And I didn't like a lot of bimetals, particularly some of the first ones I tried, because, they really were just kind of the ones that kind of clamped rings onto the edges, and they were just sort of stiff and boring because the weight distribution was so extreme. There was really no float to it. It was just I'll give you the example. I know a lot of people get on me because I'm not the biggest fan of the drop near, but I feel like the drop near is kind of stiff and boring, and it wants to play overly fast. So for me, a bimetal can be good performance-wise, but as far as fun is concerned, they're maybe not as much fun because the weight distribution becomes so extreme, the yo-yo kind of feels stiff. And I'm taking my buddy Yoyos' description of it. Kind of feels stiff and a little bit boring to me as far as like a player is concerned, but I'm not a competitor, so take that with a grain of salt. A lot of times bimetals aren't used to their full potential. And now what am I talking about when I say that? So I'm going to bring back the Lucky Lithium. Cool design, still a pretty decent yo-yo. Never really got released to the masses. I think he just produced a few of these and sold them back in 2015. But full potential, I'm sure this still cost plenty of money. But the full potential of the bimetal was not realized here. Like, this is a really heavy yo-yo. I've got yo-yos that perform better than this that are lighter, that are monometals. Not that this is bad by any stretch of the imagination. This is still a cool yo-yo, and it's a cool yo-yo to have that Mike has because he's got, it's in his collection and you can't get it anymore. But as far as wasted potential is concerned, it's really heavy. I feel like once you get past the 66, 67 gram weight range on a bimetal, you're kind of wasting the potential of a bimetal. And a lot of companies do waste their potential of their bimetals. They put out these bimetals that are 66, 67, 68 grams, and it's like, well, okay, I get it. It's a bimetal, and you're charging $30, $40 more than you charge for, the rest of your monometal lineup, but it still weighs as much as a monometal would. Are we realizing that much more performance at this point? Like, I could just have a monometal be 60-some grams and cram all the weight into the rims, and doesn't that get me to the same end point? So a lot of times there is wasted potential, and a lot of times that wasted potential was really just more used as a gimmick. It's clamped together so that somebody could sell a more expensive yo-yo and say, it's a bimetal, buy it. You don't see that as much anymore, but when it really started to be popular, there were quite a few of those. So wasted opportunities, occasionally used as a gimmick, not always used to full potential. Yeah, another con sort of to bimetals are, and th're not all like this, but you can see how these rings are shiny, and a lot of bimetals have this shiny ring stuff. If you try to grind with this, particularly on a muggy day, you're just not going to. It's going to skip off your arm. If the rings aren't brushed and if they're exposed, like see how they're not exposed here and they're back end, even these are kind of brushed a little bit, so it's not really gonna hinder anything if it hits your hand. Same thing with this, like the rims are brushed, so they're not really gonna hinder you. But like on the Superstar, these rims are shiny. If you try to grind on this thing, it's just gonna skip off your arm, or if it hits your hand, it's gonna kill your spin. So non-brushed rims on a bimetal yo-yo can really be a performance hindrance if you're doing a lot of intricate mounts and stuff, and maybe you hit your finger. It's going to kill your spin time. So that's kind of a rims are kind of sticky, so that's kind of a con as well. Additionally, a lot of bimetals just aren't, like, you can't laid back throw them because they really want to go. I've mentioned the drop near before. I don't like the drop near because when you throw it, it's like, all right, now you've got to play fast, and if it wants to play faster than you want to play, and that's how I feel about a lot of them. I felt like the Nightmare kind of played that way, and a lot of other yo-yos feel that way, especially when they do such extreme weight distribution, like there's a big steel rim clamp to the edge. They kind of get not laid back and just all go, go, go all the time, and that's great if you're a speed player and that's the kind of thing you need, but for somebody like me, it's sort of a wasted potential on my part because I don't need that. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, the drop near, the Grasshopper X, initially upon throw, I was like, I really like this. And then it was like, okay, this is exhausting to play. And I think that's what Brandon Vu said about it. My buddy, I think Danny said that about it as well. It's kind of an exhausting yo-yo to play because it just wants to keep going. It's not quite like the drop near in that regard, but it's sort of like a, I don't know. It's exhausting. So, maybe kind of, if that's what you want, like a yo-yo that's just all go, you can get those. But at the same time, for me, that's not really my style. It's not really how I like to throw. So you can kind of fall into that category, and you've paid a lot of money for a yo-yo that really is not going to play to the way that you want to play. So let's talk about rim placement. Kind of touched on this a little bit, but we're going to kind of rush through here. So you can kind of do it, see a lot, so that they're kind of clamped on the end like this. Drop near does this, the Nightmare, and lots of other yo-yos. The Magic Yo-Yo, the Stealth, has them just kind of clamped on the end, sort of like this as well. It's a perfectly fine way to do it, but not my favorite. Kind of has a lot of the cons sort of are very focused on this construction of bimetals, clamping the rings on the end there. Now, the other way that they can be constructed is clamped into the side. Now, this is better. It has to be done right, but like the edge is really good, and it does it this way. And you can see the Lucky Lee Lithium. This is an en passant. It's a hybrid. It's not bimetal, but they kind of do the same thing. And the rings are brushed here. It's sort of a pro-con kind of thing, because I feel like this is a better weight distribution method because it's not all clipped to the rim, so it's kind of a more interesting playing yo-yo. You kind of lose a little bit of that speed by not having all the weight pushed to the rim, and maybe not necessarily lose stability, but it plays a little bit more like a mono metal, but you still kind of do get that extra spin time, and you can push it a little harder, and if they do it right and they brush the rims and everything, it can be particularly good. Like I said, the edge really comes to mind as a yo-yo that has the rings clipped on the end here that still plays really, really, really well. Is very controllable, very stable. So there are yo-yos that use that and do a really good job with it. But that one's sort of it can kind of go either way. It can be amazing if you clip it to the edges here, to the sides, or it can kind of be crappy. So it just depends on how they use it. So that one's kind of a toss-up. The two ways that I would prefer is a way of putting it sort of in the cup. It still gives you a lot of rim weight, and that's really good, so that you can still kind of bring the weight down. It'll be stable. It'll be still quick to move, but you're not clamping it all the way to the end, so it's less stiff. It kind of feels more towards like what this would feel like, but not exactly. And then The other way that I prefer it is built into the rim so that you're never actually hitting it. And, it becomes super stable, super long spinning, and just quite frankly, super forgiving. So that's really what I look for in a BiMetal, is something that's going to be really forgiving, really stable, and just really overly like performance driven, but still fun to play. There are companies that do nail that. This is the Too Sick and Oh Yes Yo collaboration, and it totally nails that. Again, the Elite is a little bit different in that regard. It's more of a let's see what we can really do with a BiMetal type of thing. But it is super duper awesome because it's light, it's quick. So I would say that these two forms of construction are going to be my favorites. And these are actually my favorite BiMetals as well, if you can't tell, because I keep saying good things about them. But yeah, that's it. So I feel like this type of construction gives you the best speed, power, and control while still making it a fun yo-yo to play. And, it's all around. It's the best of all the worlds. It's the best of the BiMetals. But that's sort of my spiel on BiMetals. So do you need a BiMetal? Maybe, maybe not. Is it going to facilitate how you want to perform and how you want to play yo-yo? If it is, yeah, absolutely. Go for it. There's a lot of good companies that are making a lot of good BiMetals. However, does BiMetal always just equal better? No, not at all. In fact, if it's misused, if it's just sort of used as a gimmick, or if there's a wasted opportunity, it can often make it worse. So do your research, watch video reviews, read some reviews, ask some people who have played the yo-yo what they think about it before you go and spend all your money on a BiMetal that, maybe isn't used to its full potential, and maybe there'd be a mono-metal that might suit you better. But that's just my opinion on it. I need to know what your opinion is on it, guys. So let me know down in the comments. What do you think about my opinions? Am I crazy? Am I not crazy? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a happy Saturday. Have a good weekend. Cheers to you guys. I'll see you next time.